Here are the top stories for today, September 29, 2020. Metro Manila and 5 other areas are still placed under GCQ. The government is working nonstop to address the COVID-19 pandemic. President Duterte slams Facebook for taking down some advocacy pages. And as provincial buses resume passenger operations, what are the requirements for passengers? Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story for today, President Rodrigo Duterte approved the recommendation of the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases to keep Metro Manila under the general community quarantine status. Also placed under GCQ are Batangas, Tacloban, Bacolod, Iligan, and Iloilo for the whole month of October. Lanao del Sur, including Marawi City, will remain under modified enhanced community quarantine, while the rest of the country will be placed under modified general community quarantine or MGCQ. President Rodrigo Duterte, in his talk to the people last night, mentioned his desire to revamp PhilHealth and get rid of corrupt officials. He said he might ask Congress to abolish it.
I will try to begin tomorrow shaking the tree sa PhilHealth. Bala ko mag-reorganize and impose upon them a single line of authority. I'm going to propose to Congress to abolish the... Kung i-privatize mo naman, sus Mariusep, walang pera. Sino insurance mo? Kung sabihin ng mga kapitalista sa insurance, kami ang magbayad, pero wala kayong pundo. Wala nang pambayad niyang sa PhilHealth na yan kung... Kaya walang ibang remedy dyan. It must be a surgical move. Talagang, kung hindi, paalisin ko, sans itong mga civil service. Create a new agency out of the ruins of that old one. Either I'm going to revamp, consider everybody resign there. And if there is this structure, we can slowly, and yung disband yung ibang just a simple, I mean, as simple as it could ever be. That's what I mean.
President Rodrigo Duterte on Monday scored social media giant Facebook over its decision to take down accounts and pages advocating something that is good for the people. Facebook last week took down several pages and accounts allegedly linked to the military and police for coordinated inauthentic behavior. One of the pages shut down was the Hands Off Our Children, whose advocacy is to prevent minors from being recruited into organizations espousing violent extremism.
At itong Facebook naman, I just, from what I have learned in the past days, na pati yung advocacy ng gobyerno, tinatanggal. So what's the purpose of you being here? If government itself, Facebook, listen to me. We allow you to operate here, hoping that you could help us also. Now, if government cannot espouse or advocate something which is good for the good of the people, then what is your purpose here in my country? You cannot lay down a policy for my government. I allow you to operate here. You cannot bar or prevent me from espousing the objectives of government. So, kung hindi tayo magkaintindihan dyan, mag-usap tayo uli. Is there life after Facebook? I don't know. Pero, mag-usap tayo.
Meanwhile, Southern Luzon Command Chief Major General Antonio Parlada Jr. said all information concerning atrocities and abuses of the communist terror group posted on his Facebook account are all verified and substantiated by former members and allies of the CPP-NPA. This after Bayan Muna Party List Representative Carlos Isagani Zarate urged the social media giant to make public all fake Facebook accounts with alleged links to the military and police. Parlada said he has nothing to hide as what he is posting are all verified and substantiated by former cadres of the CPP, former NPA leaders, former recruits of Makabayan Bloc, who turned NPA terrorists, victims of rape by NPA commanders, IPs who were kidnapped by CPP NPAs and forced to become NPA slaves for years. He said Zarate can ask FB to look at his account. He also dared Facebook to take it down if they see it is not authentic. President Rodrigo Duterte is appealing to the telecommunications company to improve their internet service. The president said that with online classes set to start, the telcos ought to do a better job.
It has been the agony of the Filipino people why until now ang telcos natin is very poor. Far and wide in between the years of its introduction, ang telco from the beginning, or the telcos, right from the beginning, were already being complained of as not delivering the money's worth of the people.
While appealing to the telcos for improved service, the president nevertheless said that requirements hamper the expansion projects of the telcos.
Sometimes the operations or expansion of telcos are hindered by the so many requirements from the barangays down. And ito namang community, well, of course, you have every right. Every citizen has the right to air his grievance. But maniwala kayo, wala naman itong talagang let the telcos do their job, allow them to build the structures, towers, if you may, para naman ma-improve nila.
President Rodrigo Duterte maintains he is satisfied on how the government is doing to combat COVID-19 disease. He said the government is dedicated to the needs of the people.
Well, anyway, I'm really satisfied with the response of the local government. Ano mo sa totoo lang, mga kababayan ko, huwag kayo masyadong maniwala dyan sa mga atake-atake na ano. It would just muddle up your mind. Nandito kami, our purpose is to serve and to work. Yan ang ano namin. Kung hindi kami if we cannot serve, if we cannot work, then we might as well get out of government and ask somebody else to take over. Itong sabi ko na no, the earlier fears, what organization to use. I said, what organization? Government itself is one big organization. And government is really a government, an organization dedicated to the needs of the people.
President Duterte expressed his sentiment over the issue of corruption that is hounding the country for years. He said he even offered to resign out of sheer desperation.
I offered to resign as president. Pinatawag ko yung lahat ng sabi ko na kasi nagsasawa na ako. In my years of government, talagang wala ng katapusan itong corruption. Mahirap talaga pigilin. Kasi mga pastillas hanggang ngayon, even with the investigation or the clamor for government to shake the tree, wala. Sige hanggang ngayon. It's being committed every day.
President Duterte said he is ready to appear in Congress to discuss corruption issues. In his talk last night, Duterte also said he has no qualms about Congress setting up oversight committees. He explained that the more people watching the people's money, the better.
But I want to Congress to know that I'm ready to appear there in Congress and discuss with them. But they should allow me to talk first, then discuss how we can cut corruption, simplify the ease of doing business, has some recommendations, almost radical.
Workplaces are required to establish their own isolation rooms as well as to strictly implement the wearing of face shields among workers. The reiteration came after some business groups asked for exemptions.
Kung di po ako nagkakamali, ang pagsusuot ng face shields ay 94% effective in preventing COVID. Ang face shields po, additional 3%. So 97% protection po ang binibigay sa mga mamamayan. Kung space po ang problema, makipag-ugnayan lang po ang ating mga employers sa lokal na pamahalaan. Hindi po natin po pwedeng sabihin na ang mga employers, dahil sila ang may-ari ng workplace, kung saan marami ring mga transmission ng COVID-19 ay walang responsibilidad.
Meanwhile, the Health Department is seeing a downward trend in the weekly average number of reported new COVID-19 infections. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said the One Hospital Command and Oplan Kalinga may have caused a downtrend.
It has given a breather to our health system. Nakita natin yung sa National Capital Region is the best example that we were able to really decongest our hospitals. Nakita natin talagang yung utilization bumaba to a level na although it's still in the warning level, pero mas nakakaagapay ang sistema. Mas nakapagbukas tayo ng mga units sa ospital para mas maka-accommodate ng mga pasyente. Laking bagay din yung Oplan Kalinga na talagang pag nakita ng local government na hindi kaya ng mga bahay or ng mga family na magkaroon ng home quarantine, they encourage people para lumipat na lang sa temporary treatment and monitoring facility.
Still to come, as provincial buses resume operations, what are the requirements for passengers? And the government allocates funds for small and medium-scale industries. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Pangalagaan ang sarili laban sa Coronavirus Disease 2019. Hanggat maaari, umiwas sa mataong lugar. Iwasang hawakan ang ilong at bibig, maging malinis sa katawan at ugaliin ang wastong paghuhugas ng kamay. Takpan ang ilong at bibig kung uubo o babahing. Umiwas sa mga taong nagpapakita ng sintomas ng coronavirus disease gaya ng lagnat, ubo at sipon. Magsuot ng face mask kung kinakailangan. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. Public utility buses plying EDSA busway will go cashless starting Thursday, October 1. The Department of Transportation said there will be a strict no beep card, no ride policy at the exclusive bus lane as it implements the beep card cashless payment system. The cashless system will complement existing safety and health protocols already enforced by the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases. This includes the 1-meter physical distancing and the mandatory wearing of face masks and shields, among others. The opening of 12 provincial buses to and from Metro Manila start operations tomorrow. What are the requirements for commuters? Per the guideline issued by the Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board, some of the requirements are the following: a travel pass, advance tickets 2 days in advance, and strict adherence to health protocols. These include the wearing of face masks and shields at all times, use of alcohol or hand sanitizers, adhering to 1-meter physical distancing, refraining from eating, drinking, and talking with each other, passengers, or a mobile phone. Provincial bus passengers will also be required to present a valid ID with their address or place of origin, age and school or workplace, a written consent from the passenger to allow for COVID-19 testing and possible quarantine, and other documents required by the IATF EID and their respective LGUs. The Commission on Elections, or Comelec, shrugged off a proposal to postpone the 2022 elections, saying such a move should come from Congress. Comelec Chairman Sheriff Abbas said the Constitution clearly provides that elections should be held on the second Monday of May of the election year. Abbas said under the law, the terms of all incumbent elected officials will end on June 30 of the election year. Comelec spokesperson James Jimenez agreed with Abbas that it is not Comelec's call to reschedule the elections. Pampanga's 2nd District Representative Mikey Arroyo earlier asked the Comelec to consider postponing the 2022 elections amid fears of transmission of COVID-19. Malacanang said delaying the elections can never be an option unless the 1987 Constitution is amended. The national government is reopening the economy to alleviate hunger among Filipinos affected by lockdowns made in response to the spread of COVID-19. Malacanang responded to a social weather station survey that showed a hunger incidence of 30.7%, the highest since the previous record of 23.8% in March 2012. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the palace is saddened by the survey result, but he noted that reopening the economy would slowly ease hunger among Filipinos. He said the national government has not neglected its obligation to assist sectors most affected by the pandemic, such as workers and the public transportation sector. Roque appealed to the public to stay healthy and follow quarantine protocols so they can return to work despite the threat of the pandemic. Malacanang says that the reopening of Boracay Island is expected to support tourism industry workers and businesses amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque clarified that the reopening of Boracay Island did not mean that the country is already safe from the threat of COVID-19. He said resuming work in the tourism sector is possible as long as health standards are in place. Starting Thursday, October 1, Boracay will be open to visitors under general community quarantine or lower. In our business news, the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, wants to double the fund for its microfinancing program under the Small Business Corporation next year. During the department budget hearing in the Senate on Monday, DTI Secretary Ramon Lopez proposed to increase the SB Corporation's budget from the annual allocation of 1.5 billion pesos to 3 billion in 2021. Lopez said they will be able to use up the 10 billion pesos allocated under the Bayanihan II Act for this year. SB Corp used its 1 billion peso fund for the COVID-19 assistance to restart enterprises or CARES program to help existing micro and small enterprises to continue their businesses amid the pandemic. To further reach more MSMEs across the country, Lopez said SB Corp will tap the negocio centers nationwide to accept loan applications under the CARES program and give business advice to them. Up next, let's find out the strategies being undertaken by the Department of Education in preparation for the opening of classes. And Pope Francis appointed a new papal envoy to the Philippines. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin ang mga dapat gawin sa lugar ng trabaho laban sa coronavirus disease 2019. Ang mga kumpanya ay dapat magbigay ng face mask sa kanilang mga empleyado. Bukod dito, magbigay kaalaman din patungkol sa COVID-19. Siguraduhing malinis ang kapaligiran. Maglagay ng sabon at hand sanitizer sa mga palikuran. Siguraduhing ligtas at nalutong maigi ang mga pagkain sa kantina. Obserbahan ang kalusugan ng mga empleyado at katrabaho. Kung sakali man na mayroon silang sintomas ng coronavirus disease, gaya ng lagnat, ubot sipon at hirap sa paghinga, ay agad ipasuri sa doktor. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
As students and teachers struggle to adapt to new modes of learning this coming school year, the Department of Education looks into ways to improve learning opportunities while welcoming more enrollees. Marita Mawahe has the story.
The Department of Education will hire learner support aides to assist teachers in the implementation of the distance learning system for the incoming school year. DepEd Undersecretary for Planning Jesus Mateo said, apart from assisting teachers in lesson preparation, LSAs will guide learners and households in the use of their chosen learning modalities and monitor the progress and achievement of learners. Passers of licensure exam for teachers and private school teachers who became displaced, unemployed, or underemployed due to the coronavirus pandemic may apply. Provincial teachers whose contracts were not renewed may also apply as LSAs. The proposed hiring of LSAs comes as 88.8% of target learners have enrolled before the opening of the school year on October 5. DepEd data shows about 24 million learners have enrolled nationwide out of the targeted 27 million who enrolled in the previous academic year. Of the total number, about 22 million learners enrolled in public school and some 2.1 million in private schools. Meanwhile, Senator Bongo on Monday called on the DepEd and other institutions to ensure the quality and appropriateness of learning modules. Go emphasized that the accuracy and appropriateness of learning materials must meet quality standards for blended learning to work. With the recent signing of Republic Act 11476 or Good Manners and Right Conduct and Values Education Act, Go said values formation must be at the core of education and not simply be an additional subject or requirement. Go made this appeal after a learning material with what is perceived as provocative and malicious content went viral on social media. Education Secretary Leonor Briones assured that they will take action on the matter. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Moahe.
The Department of Justice filed charges against a National Bureau of Investigation official and his brother for allegedly extorting money from an immigration personnel implicated in the so-called Pastilla scheme. NBI Legal Assistance Section Chief Joshua Paul Capiral and his brother, Bureau of Immigration Medical Section Officer Christopher John Capiral, will face charges of robbery, extortion, and corruption. The Capirals were arrested in an entrapment operation after they received 200,000 pesos from BI Officer Jeffrey Dales Salamde Ignacio. Ignacio was one of the 19 BI officers allegedly involved in the protection racket, which allows the entry of Chinese nationals into the country. Before the entrapment, the NBI had flagged Capiral for initially recommending that only 4 officers be charged over the Pastillas bribery scam at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. The Presidential Communications Operations Office pushes for a responsive and open government that could help build trust, especially in times of crisis. PCOO Assistant Secretary and Freedom of Information Program Director Christian Ablan explained that a strong call for transparency and accountability is ultimately sought, especially in times of crisis. Ablan made the statement as the country celebrated the International Day for Universal Access to Information on Monday. He said the celebration has highlighted the need of Filipinos to be informed amid the COVID-19 pandemic. On the other hand, PCOO Secretary Martin Andanar said people armed with the right information are confident in choosing what is best for them as they keep themselves safe from misinformation and disinformation. Andanar urged the public to work hand in hand with the government as it pushes for a transparent and accountable government. The House is on its way to approving a bill that will recognize the rights of foundlings or deserted children with unknown parents. During Monday's plenary session, the chamber passed on second reading House Bill 7679 or the proposed Foundling Welfare Act. Ang Provinciano Party List Representative Ronnie Ong said the measure aims to protect foundlings who remain vulnerable and are in danger of being deprived of countless rights and opportunities. The bill proposes that all foundlings shall be recognized as natural-born Filipino citizens and shall be accorded the rights of a citizen, such as access to education, medical care, and government services. The Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, shall meanwhile actively look into the birth and parentage of the abandoned children or infants. Pope Francis has appointed Archbishop Charles John Brown as the new apostolic nuncho to the Philippines. Brown replaces Archbishop Gabriel Giordano Cachia, who became the Vatican's permanent observer to the United Nations in November 2019. Brown, a native of New York, United States of America, was ordained a priest for the Archdiocese of New York in 1989. He served as an official of the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith in the Vatican in 1994. In 2011, he was appointed by Pope Benedict XVI as Apostolic Nuncio to Ireland. Pope Francis then appointed Brown as Apostolic Nuncio to Albania in 2017. The Diocese of Caloocan, meanwhile, welcomes the appointment of the new nuncio to the Philippines. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. Metro Manila and 5 other areas are still placed under GCQ. The government is working nonstop to address the COVID-19 pandemic. President Duterte slams Facebook for taking down some advocacy pages. And as provincial buses resume passenger operations, what are the requirements for passengers? Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day and stay safe, everyone.